Yoganali, welcome everyone. This is the fourth session in our series on Mending the Sacred Hoop, and we're going to entrain our hearts and minds with 4 minutes of a drumming journey for fire, dancing fire, created by me and Michael DiMartino. So enjoy the journey. Thank you, Pamela, and thank you, Michael, for that co-creation of the music. And there's lots of fire dancing in the sky this time of the year, bringing change. And that's what we're hoping for. We're hoping to bring about change with this process that we're sharing with everyone. We started with the first session of Mending the Sacred Hoop, talking about what is sacred and why is it a hoop. And then in the second session, we brought in the tension of the opposites by exploring what is not sacred. And we held that tension in the third session and tried to integrate, to bring them together and let that tension transform into something new. And so this is our fourth session in this process that explores the neither nor. It's a letting go. It's the not knowing that brings about something truly new. And that's where we are today. It's like the tepid water that's the same temperature as our body. And so we don't feel it as warm or cool. We don't have any reaction to it. It simply becomes what it is in our experience, in the immediacy. Barely noticeable. Okay, integration, joining together. And so in this session, we're going to continue to explore the beginnings from the perspective of the feminine power to 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 move spirits from the unseen world into this world, to bring life onto this plane. And when that happens, I want you to think about all of the unknowns. When a man and woman come together and create new life on earth, to bring onto earth, think of all the unknowns. You can't possibly know what all you're going to encounter with this child that you're bringing, this life that you're bringing onto earth. You know that you have a commitment to take care of this being until they're capable of taking care of themselves. But I think if anyone was given a list of all the things that would be required of them, it might be a little overwhelming. I mean, who would really take on something as huge as bringing a new life onto earth if they knew all that they would have to do to survive and help this new life survive? And somehow that magically happens. It comes with the being. It comes with its own life, and there's an integration, and there's a lot of things you couldn't imagine that happen during the course of that life and the continuation of the parent's life and the family. So put yourself there and all those unknowns that you've experienced in some way or another. And we're each going to share our experience of a moment of truly not knowing. And so I'm going to start with the moment that I experienced, and I call my first true Zen moment before I took my Zen vows in 2001. This was 35 years ago when I was rock climbing, and I was doing my first triple pitch. And a triple pitch is where you can't go down. The only option is to go up. And so you have to climb up a cliff, 3 pitches, which are about 50 feet each. And there's no way down. And so I was pretty scared. And I got about halfway up the first pitch, and I realized that I was on just these tiny little ledges with my fingertips and my toes. And I couldn't stay in one spot long because my fingers and toes would give out and I had to move to another place. And at one point, I reached as far as I could with my hands and my feet, and I didn't find anything. I didn't find anything that I could move to. And I couldn't stay where I was. So I had to just let my body move or fall. And I was on belay, so, I was trusting the system from above would catch me, but I never experienced that. But my body simply reached the point where it could no longer hold on to those ledges, and it moved, not knowing what would be there for me to move to, or what would be there for me at all. And when my body found something to rest on, I experienced a deep, deep movement of energy within my body, my bones, where the ancestors sit, within my whole being that I can't really put words to, but what came up was a lot of sobbing, just sobs in that experience of something being there for me and continuing my climb. And I had to continue the rest of that pitch with those sobs still coming, but at the end of that pitch, there was a ledge that I had to wrap my knee around and pull my whole body up with my knee and just lie there on that ledge. And those sobs just came from generations and generations of ancestral DNA in my bones. I could feel just this purge of something that I still can't put words to. 38 years later, I still don't know what it was, but it was a remarkable experience. And I'm happy to share that with you and to acknowledge that that's what we're hoping for in this series on Mending the Sacred Hoop. We're hoping to clear the karma and clear the path and clear the known so that we can create something new, something really new to mend the sacredness in the world today, to mend our sacred hoops. And so on that note, I'm going to ask Esty Youngwolf to sing us in with a song and share his experience of neither nor and mending the sacred hoop at this point.
Yeah, 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 we yeah, 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 we yeah, yeah. Oh, ooh, yeah, 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 we yeah, 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 we yeah. Hey, why, yeah, we yeah, we yeah, we yeah, hey, why, yeah, we yeah, Hey, why, ya, way, ya, why, ya, way, ya, way, ya, why, ya. Hey, why, ya, way, ya, why, ya, way, ya, way, ya, why, ya. Ya, 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 way, ya, 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 way, ya, why, ya. Yeah, 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 we yeah, 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 we yeah, why, yeah, hey, why, yeah, we yeah, why, yeah, we yeah, why, yeah, hey, why, yeah, we yeah, why, yeah, we yeah, why, yeah. So, having missed you meeting some kind of out of the loop. So I'll try to find myself. We're discussing not knowing. Which to me is a space where the knower is not there. Why there is not knowing, the vanishing of self. What I would call direct experience of, some people say, enlightenment, of no self, of truth, of what is. And I've had those experiences in different ways. The experience of no experiencer. But one that occurs to me is a time when I was traveling in India, in the mountains of South India, and it was a very narrow road and very, very steep, very, very steep on the side. That's scary. Like if you looked out the window, it's just straight down, and you know that if that bus veers off even a little bit, then it's all over. I had a dream shortly after that where I was back in that bus and I was in the same situation. But in this dream, the bus actually went off the edge. And I was in a space where I knew any moment it would all be over. It would be all over. And without thinking much about it, my body went stiff and my awareness went into my head and to the top of my head. And it was all light and it's all then emptiness and no self. And I woke up in that state. And so I was in that state. So, being Cherokee, I've been told multiple times, don't do anything but be Cherokee. Follow your way. I haven't been able to do that because I'm too curious, and I've explored and studied a lot of different ways, teachings, practices, and I think it's good. Because it's like seeing things through different perspectives, but it's the same thing. And I had an occasion to practice Buddhist meditation, and this state that we talk about, which I call the state of direct experience, you can come to that state, I think, through different ways. But basically, it's coming to stillness of mind. And some of the best teachings, really, like ceremony can bring you into that, singing can bring you to that, different practices. But I think stillness of mind has been said to be enlightenment, or I would say the state that is closest, the place from which enlightenment can occur. And something that's been very enlightening to me is to Zen stories. So I want to tell a story about a story. There was a story of Gutai. And the story of Gutai was that he was a little boy, and family took him to the monastery, which is common in some areas of Asia, that you bring your boy to the monastery to be taught, and they would be taught and they would serve. And so Gutai was made the servant of the master. And this master had a way of teaching, whereas if anybody asked a very profound question, he always had the same answer. What is enlightenment? What is truth? What is Buddha? What is meditation? What is Zen? He would always raise one finger and smile. And that became known as the one finger Zen. So one day when Gutai was cleaning up, sweeping the floor, a visitor came to visit the master. And in the course of conversation, the master had to leave the room, so leaving the visitor and Gutai. So the visitor asked Gutai, "What is the essence of your master's teaching? Can you tell me?" And Gutai raised one finger and smiled. And the visitor found that very amusing. Gutai left the room, and when the master returned, the visitor told the master the story. Whereupon the master became enraged. "Gutai, come in here." "Yes, master." "What did this gentleman ask you?" "He asked what was the essence of your teaching, master." "And what did you reply?" And Gutai raised one finger and smiled. And the master became enraged. There was a knife on the table. He picked it up and he sliced Gutai's finger off. And Gutai went running away in pain. And the master called him, "Gutai!" And he stopped and looked back, and the master raised one finger and smiled. And Gutai was enlightened in that moment. Well, the story about the story is that was one of my favorite Zen stories. And I had a time where I was working in a restaurant as a waiter. In the evening, when the restaurant closed, the staff would all sit and they would give a free drink, and we would socialize. And so one evening, my boss asked me, "So what is your name? I hear called different names. What is your name?" And I told him my Buddhist name. And he said, "What is that?" He said, "Is that?" I said, "It's a Buddhist name." He said, "You mean like Zen?" I said, "Yeah, like Zen." He said, "Well, tell me something. What is Zen? I don't know what it is." And I said, "Well, that's a very profound question you're asking there, but I can tell you a story." The answer to what is Zen could be just this, to raise one finger and smile. So I told him the story of Gutai, and about how the Gutai had mimicked his master, and in the process of that lost his finger, but became enlightened. And so my boss shook his head. He said, "That doesn't make any sense at all." Well, a few days later, the restaurant was very busy. All night long we were running, and there was a line going out the door. And I kept going in for a certain order, and I kept, is that ready yet? My boss would say, no. Is that ready yet? No. Is it ready? No, not yet. I said, and I don't know why I did this, just something came over me. I slammed my hand down on the counter and I said, well, why the hell isn't it? And he got red in the face like a beet and opened his mouth, whereupon I raised one finger and smiled, and he lost it and said, I get it now. Excellent. So he got the teaching. So that I don't know if I can add much more to that, except to say that in the moment of our greatest pain, our greatest disappointment, our greatest loss, or maybe our greatest joy, the mind becomes still and will be at that fulcrum between all opposites, and and it will experience the state of real freedom. That's all.
Thank you, SD. Those are beautiful examples of holding the tension of the opposites until they change. True change can occur when we are present and not knowing in the void. So I would love at this time for Patricia to share her experience with us of not knowing.
Well, this is really a calling because I've had a few along my life, but the one I'm going to share here is one very strong, which is a moment in my life not too long ago, a couple of years ago, where I was very sad, very depressed, very, this is it. And I had gone to do a sweat lodge across the river where I live. Nobody was there because it was raining. And so I was at night walking back. And as soon as I got close to the creek, I literally yelled out, "Intent, give me a sign now." And at that moment, I don't know how to say it in English, but a water flew and threw me into the creek where there's rocks, and it was really intense. And I started for more than a mile just rolling and hitting in rocks, and I started to take off everything I was carrying and throwing it. And I was, oh my gosh, ooh, I would try to hold on to something and I would break whatever was there, and just tear it apart. And I kept on rolling and rolling and rolling and just boom, really going until there was a moment that I said, okay, I'm going to end up on the other big river. Nobody's going to ever know anything about me. This is it. And at that moment, I started just to surrender. I didn't have any idea of what could happen, but I stopped fighting the water and trying to keep up and breathe. And then I just let go. I surrendered completely to, I don't know. I didn't know anything that could happen. I was just surrendering. And after a while, I was able to hold on to a branch on one side and pull myself out into this forest. I walked through the forest without shoes, without anything. And I came to this little posada place where they receive people. The person there, oh my gosh, put me in bed and just laid me there. I had not one scratch. I had not one, mark of being hit on the rocks or anything. Nothing. It was complete silence. And what I feel that I was being told right now, it was total emptiness. I had no idea of nothing. It was total unknown. And that unknown was about surrendering totally, and not fighting the water or anything. And later feeling everything we need is within us. We have the strength. I was just, oh my gosh, I was, pobrecita de mi, poor little me, and I was sad and, just, and the strength was inside. I had something within me which I had no idea. So the big intent, this amazing great spirit, call it what you want, when I yell and give me a sign, boom, okay, there you go, thrown into the waters. So the unknown, I had no idea. But when I surrendered to that unknown, is when I was able to get back a hold and be able to pull myself out and walk slowly through the nights through this trail in the middle of the forest and have no scratch, no bruise, nothing. So that's a quick sharing of my experience. Not so long, it was a really very intense experience. So I think that's what I wanted to share at this moment of we're always in that place of trying to fight and find out and understand and beat ourselves up, whatever, with this inner dialogue. And when we really, really just, there's nothing there to be, either left or right. No, somewhere in between of just, okay, this is it. And then we find out, that we have the strength. In that place of not knowing is where we can really integrate what is already there. So that's a quick experience, short, but very intense. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Patricia. That is a very intense experience of truly not knowing, letting go. And this is the kind of energy we want to generate from mending the sacred hoop. So at this time, I would like to invite our sun dancer, Lenny, to share his experiences with us. We can't hear you yet, Lenny. There.
Okay, lovely. I've been reflecting on mending the sacred hoop this morning and how Gail set this up so nicely and the different perspectives we're taking on it. Because, life is just different ways of looking at things. And, we take one view, we see something one way, and then we interpret it by the way we see it. Well, the last three, we've been looking at the sacred hoop in different ways. This way we're looking at, if we let everything go and we're completely open, then something new can come. But they're all perspectives, they're all part of the hoop. As we say here, Nukama, all my relations, we're all related. Everything is one, everything is together. Um, there is no separation. So I was reflecting on what I shared on our last broadcast. The first one, sitting with the birds in the pond. There was a time when I let go. I was just sitting there and I had no thoughts. Everything was gone. I completely let go of all my prior positions. Before that, I've been looking through the canyon walls, looking for petroglyphs, pictographs, couldn't find anything. But when I let go and just watched the birds and just didn't have any thoughts about where I'm going to go, all of a sudden, the birds showed me the canyon wall. They showed me where the petroglyphs were. So that was the time when I just totally let go and spirit stepped in and bird stepped in and something new I had never experienced like that before came forth. Second sharing was a whole people doing that. When the Anishinaabe left the East Coast here and started their migration towards the Great Lakes in the middle of Canada and the US because of a vision. That was somebody who just let go and this vision came into them. And the whole people were willing to let go of their whole way of life, of everything that mattered to them, and said, okay, and uproot themselves and go off. They didn't know where they were going. They didn't know where they were going to end up. They just know they had to keep going until they found a place where food grew on water. Now that was an amazing experience of those people, of letting go, just opening to what new might come from that letting go. The third thing we shared was the eagle and the condor prophecy. That also was a time when that was a vision that came to the people, and it's come to different peoples in different places in different ways. And what will come of that? Well, I think we're still finding that one out. I think that one's still in transition. It's still happening. I think, maybe what we're doing here is all part of that happening, and what can become if we just let go of things, let go of the old ways, and that the prophecy says we should let go of and embrace again. Different perspectives, different ways of looking. Hey, I'll share a little one that I was traveling down in Navajo, or Dene land, as I like to be called, and I was given a connection to a medicine man there. Um, Bless his soul, he's passed away now, but he does a lot of healing, and a lot of his livelihood was based on it, on his healing that he did for his people down there. And I was getting closer. I was traveling for months on my way there, just going where the spirit took me from Canada on my way down there. And as I got closer and closer, I noticed his financial situation getting worse and worse, because all of a sudden he had no internet. I could only use the cell to connect to him, and just in our conversation. So I eventually arrived there, and said, well, I know I'm supposed to come here now in my journey. Now's the time to meet you. Uh, so he took me up to a sacred mountain, and we had a wonderful conversation. And he said, well, if you're here, it's because you need healing. That's why people come to me. And I said, oh, okay, yeah, right. Well, I'm sure I probably need healing. Or he said, maybe somebody in your family. I said, well, I could be here for months if that's the case. There's many in my family that could use some healing. Bless them. I wish they got on me. But then I said, but I don't think that's why I'm here. I don't know why I'm here. I just know that this is the time I should be here, and here I am. But it's not for you to hear me or my family. Thought about that for a while, and then he shared a story with me. And he said that, things weren't going so good with him, with his healings, and that he wasn't, people weren't coming forth and asking to be healed. And he said that his people are from the Chaco Canyon. That's a sacred area to them, where all the Kivos are, and that. And he said that, you know, I had a vision there that there's a portal there that needs to be opened, and it needs to be, to help healing our people and stuff. But my other elders, they don't believe that. They don't believe what I've seen. They don't accept that. And he thinks, and because of that, his harmony, his place of, being able to heal, which is a place that we're talking about today, of just being open, and being in that other place, as Steve said, one and connected with it all, um, that it's not happening with him. So I said, oh, okay. And that, before we went up there, and that, I told him next day I was going to go to Chaco Canyon on my journey, that, I came to see him for whatever reason, and now I was going on. So in the morning we woke up, he let me spend the night there. He said, I'm coming with you. I have to go with you to Chapel Canyon. Oh, okay, well, that'd be fantastic. Wonderful. Love to have your company. So off we went, and he sang his journeying songs along the way and called the spirits and the right place for there. And when we got there, he went to the office and told them that, probably going to be doing a ceremony here, and he had permission because he was a medicine elder and he was recognized. So they said, no problem, we'll go ahead. And so as we were driving into the canyon, he would stop at different places. And in one place he stopped, he said, "Oh, what do you see in the rocks over there?" And all of a sudden these tears came to my eyes and I just started crying. And I said, "I don't know. There's a woman and there's a child and the child's hurt and something's happened to him. And I don't know. I just know this pain." And he looked at me and he said, "Yes, that's what we call the woman in the child rock." And that's exactly what's happened there. And there's a story to go with that. I won't share that today, but it was his way of seeing if he should do a ceremony with me, if I was connected at one. But that was a case again. I didn't have any preconceptions. I just looked. I didn't have any ideas, for him to go with me. He didn't have any ideas. He had let go of the position of I was there to get healed. He let go of that. He was open to, okay, why am I here? Is there a reason? There were all this letting go. So we went to the Kiva in the area, and he said, "Oh, we have to do a portal opening ceremony here." I said, "What?" He said, "Well, we have to do a portal opening ceremony here." I said, "Well, okay, uh, I'm game. Let's go for it. Let's do it." So we did it. He sang his songs and asked me to do I did the Mi'kmaq honor song, which is honoring the people song. So I wanted to honor his people. So I shared that song. And then after we walked by and walked out, and he said, "Well, did you see anything?" And I said, "Well, right there in that canyon wall, an eagle flew out, right out of the wall, right there." And he looked at me and said, "That's where I've been trying to tell my elders the portal is." I said, "Oh, well, wonderful. I must have done something. We must have done something together. Thank you for sharing that." And he was so relieved because that is why he couldn't heal. That is why he couldn't do those things. And I don't, to me, it was just, it was just what spirits take you. When you walk and you do this journey and you let go and you truly let go with no prior position, then the hoop comes together. Healing takes place. So after that, he was going to take me up and take me to see some other ruins in different places. But he got so busy with his healings because all of a sudden his energy came back, his healing power came back, and his people wanting to be healed came back. And that's only part of the story. I have more of that story to share, but that's not for tonight. Because tonight we're just sharing the letting go of the prior positions. So those are examples of letting go of those prior positions, having and just letting be what emerges. And it is amazing what can emerge. It is truly to me a wonder that never ceases to amaze me. It's so heart uplifting just to see the possibilities by just letting go, by just being with that moment, as I would say. And Gail made that leap. And Patricia let go and went with the flow of the water, not one with it, no longer fighting. And that's what the hoop is about. We're mending the hoop because right now we're fighting everything. We are not going with that flow of the water. We are not just being at peace and at one of letting go and see what will emerge. We're fighting everything one step away, including each other. So wishes that we let go till we can pray and console. Thank you.
Thank you, Lenny. There's so much in that sharing, and I'm really grateful to hear it all. And at this time, I want to say that we'll open the last 3 sessions of our series to anyone who would like to join us, who is able to watch these 4 sessions so that they can understand the process that we're honoring the 4 positions and the letting go by going through duality, through the opposites, not going around or bypassing or letting that little monkey mind that gets us into so much trouble take over and do everything instead of these mysteries, these wonderful, sacred, numinous mysteries that we can live in. That's the choice we're making, and that's what we're trying to show you tonight. So, at this time, I'd like to ask Michael DiMartino to wrap us up with his words, please. We can't hear you yet, Michael. Check your mic.
Great. Thank you so much, Grandmother Gail. And very powerful stories and wisdom, as always, from the members here of the Grandmother and Wisdom Council. I want to start with congratulating SD on his new book that's coming out. I believe it's called the Echo People. So I'm excited to learn more about that. And it's nice to see our grandmother from Brazil, Pachi, Patricia, Pachi Mama. And of course, always honored to hear this amazing stories of Lenny from Canada, and of course, yourself, and even acknowledging others who can't be with us tonight. And, so much of what has been shared just rings so true. And like you said, Gail, it's really, we've all begun this sacred journey and process together with authenticity and good intention, and to really work with such a huge spiritual teaching and concept like the sacred hoop. And, so much came to, my consciousness. As always, I typically um, speak towards the end. And of course, all of the wisdom shared here is a tough act to follow. So it's always intimidating. And as you know, I'm currently have been in Europe, Eastern Europe and Bulgaria for the last 3 weeks. So I typically take more time to think about the topics and calibrate thoughts and what I'm going to say. And then how does that weave into the stories of what everyone's presenting, just to create, again, this hoop of continuity and connection, as opposed to just coming here, with my own perspective, or, as we've seen so much in collective sharings, people come with their script or their infomercial. So, the fact that this is living, breathing wisdom is always incredible. I also want to thank you for starting with uh, the entrainment coherence piece with fire. Again, another extremely relative um, presentation, because I think all of us are aware of what's been happening with the sun lately, and solar flares and their profound impact on not just the planet's magnetic field, but the magnetic poles. And also, of course, since the planet is a living um, entity and we're connected to that through the elementals, that a lot has been happening with human beings around this concept of the sun, of fire, of light, of transmutation. And of course, I've been watching a lot the Schumann frequencies and also what's been happening with volcanic activity in Hawaii and under the ocean off of Oregon and by Italy, and what's been happening at Yellowstone with the geysers. So there is so much fire energy right now. And it's been very interesting because, again, looking at things, from a um, my perspective, like many of you, studying different traditions and different spiritual religious paths and using that as a way to cultivate my own um, sovereign connection and understanding of how I work with great mystery and spirit creator. Um, all of these things have, really had such profound impact recently, especially being in Bulgaria. I visited the sanctuary of Baba Vanga, who was a world renowned mystic and psychic and kind of prophetess, and gave hundreds of predictions, and most which have come true in not a vague way at all. So I'm bringing this up because, part of, coming to Bulgaria, it wasn't necessarily at the looking years back, it wasn't at the top of my bucket list of like, I want to go here. I mean, going to places like Brazil and Central America, visiting the Mayan pyramids, going to Egypt, Egyptian pyramids, visiting my part of my ancestral lands in Italy. I wasn't mapping out a trip to Bulgaria. And of course, my partner right now is from Bulgaria. So even just coming here with all this fire energy lately um, was really stepping into the unknown. I had looked into many different traditions, but to me, the history of Bulgaria as an more than a country, really a nation, a civilization, and being the ancestors of the ancient Thracians going back 7,000 years was really stepping into this whole world of the unknown. I mean, I've spent the last month on the border of Greece and Macedonia and Turkey and Romania and the Black Sea, and it's just been amazing because there was this, um, like Patricia was speaking about, there was this moment of like, okay, I'm just having trust. I can't really put my mind around like I'm going to go and have this specific experience or learn this about my ancestors or something that I've studied. I mean, it was completely stepping into the unknown. And as always, it takes that trust. But in coming to that place of surrender, which is, kind of part of um, the mission or the intention behind a lot of the Taoist practices of being, right? Of just like being, allowing, I guess in the West, we say kind of going with the flow, has, had really profound um, impacts. So, as I thought about the topics tonight of the neutrality of is and is not, and like you were saying, the hot water, the cold water, and then we find the kind of that comfortable body temperature space of beingness, it really does take surrender. And I really also appreciated what everyone has said, but what Lenny was saying, because I'm always at this place of trying to find and be a bridge between tradition, which is so essential to continue bringing forth these various lineages of wisdom that are, you know, ancient and still relevant, but how do we carry that in a way in the contemporary world in the spirit of innovation so it's relevant and functional? It's not just like a dusty book on the shelf. How does that book of ancient wisdom become practical right now? So again, it's this thing of like tradition versus innovation and what works. And I think back to, I spent time decades ago up at Hopi Land, and I had the opportunity to spend time with grandfather David Monange and other amazing, uh, you know, spiritual teachers who mostly never really used words. But within that, the time that I was there, one of the challenges that came up is like in that tradition is like we're doing our ceremonies, we're doing our traditional work, but we're finding now it's not bringing the rains, it's not growing the corn. So what do we do? So again, for me in my own life, I'm always trying to find that bridge of preserving the wisdom, but making sure that the wisdom is functioning in a way which brings in that spirit of being in the moment and the innovation and trying to again bridge those worlds together, which can be very challenging. But when something works, and that's why the sacred hoop is such a powerful symbol because it transcends any one tradition. I mean, the sacred hoop, the sacred circle is so prevalent in so many traditions. Also, I really appreciated what SD was saying too about the idea of, you know, um, the intellectual mind and how we try to understand things and rationalize, and very much kind of a Eurocentric approach to wisdom. But then there's the idea of our parasympathetic nervous system and the fact that we can have direct experience. We don't always have to understand things with the rational mind, sometimes through direct experience. And that's why I love starting with these coherence pieces of music, because it brings us into an experience as opposed to bringing us to, the brain, which, as we know in coherence work, is it doesn't quite have the same type of intelligence as when we feel and experience things. Another thing I wanted to mention too, when Patricia was talking, the idea of like, and I've seen amazing displays of this here, where we think about, life and the sacredness of life and the importance of that. And then we also think about the death, right? Life and death. I mean, they're these almost weird polar opposites, but somewhere within the connection of that, we think of the idea of the soul, and the soul, our spiritual self, really has this eternal nature. And even today, I visited this ancient, 7,000-year-old Thracian site, and there was a tomb, and the way it was designed as a circle, and it was at the top of the mountain. And they said that this is a place where heaven and earth, the sun and the moon, like it forms this mandala of the universe. But yet, when these, you know, priests or priestesses or highly regarded, respected people of this ancient Thracian culture were, had this amazing life of influence and power, and then death, how they created these tombs. And again, the tomb was a hoop, but what was amazing within the tomb, there was a huge ceiling made of, hundreds of stones, which symbolically could represent the universe and the stars. But it was again a circle. It was like kind of like a beehive or a honeycomb, and it was just this resoundingness of like, you know, the again the neutrality and the sacred space between sun and moon, heaven and earth. And even one of the locations had this amazing lake next to it, but they also had on the other side where they would have fires. So it's like these dualities of elements. So, these are some of the things I've been really, um, again, having this direct experience of that for me plays so relevantly into the topic tonight. So, we're at a crossroads, and I think Lenny really put an exclamation point on it too. And also reflecting on what you said about the unknown. We're at this crossroads of the unknown. And it can be a very powerful place. It can be a very scary place. And I see people having both. Some people are embracing this idea of a new paradigm, moving forward into something new. And then some people are also, again, the polarity are terrified. But I think within this space of what we're working with, like you said, you're kind of reaching and you're holding on. It's like you're trying to find that next step. There's this kind of great mystery there that, I mean, with all the things, I mean, just looking at Yellowstone alone, we're at this place of like great mystery, great power, and transition, and really working with the sacred hoop. Um, and again, it's not about the quantity of how many people. I think all of us, what I've been feeling, even in my spiritual cellular energy, is just having these weekly councils and having these podcasts and talking about something so pertinent and putting out there. I feel, even if it's for myself, maybe I'm completely delusional, but I feel for myself, and I know in conversations we've all had, the transformational experience that we've all engaged in because of our authentic commitment to do this process, to really explore the unknown and to kind of open ourselves to a greater understanding of how to mend the sacred hoop. And the last thing I'll say really quick, again, like I haven't been really excited about being on planes lately, especially like the last 6 months, what's been happening with planes. And anyone who watches any news will see, like, wow. So even getting on a plane to come here was kind of like, should I get on a plane? Should I trust technology? You know, being on a plane and hitting an hour of turbulence, like, oh my God, I'm at 40,000 feet flying at 500 miles an hour. There's a part that's like, we think about that, it's like terrifying. But that trust of, like Lenny said, that the universe kind of has a plan, and through our intuition, maybe we're not aware, but following this, and then being here in Bulgaria and spending, almost a month here in this incredible mountainous ancient region, crossroads of civilizations, and every nature here is so powerful. It's so different than a lot of what I've experienced before, where nature's been kind of tamed and dominated, and industrialization and so-called civilization. So again, even like in the face of like the unknown and terror of like, the trust and the surrender, like Patricia was saying, to allow that to happening, and like ST was saying, coming into that place of Zen, like going beyond mind, going beyond emotion, and coming into this great emptiness and neutrality. So I just wanted to share a little bit of that, and I hope I didn't ramble too long, but a very rich and very powerful subject matter tonight, especially here at the new moon. So thank you.
Thank you, Michael, for bringing us full circle back to direct experience and the new moon that we're in right now, and acknowledging the work that we're able to do because we show up together. We have we've shown up in this place that we're grateful to Michael for providing and inspiring and calling us all into for almost 13 moons now. And we've done some amazing bonding and weaving and creating together because we come together, because we show up in community and do this work together. Yes, we'll pat ourselves on the back. Patricia, you're so right. We need to acknowledge our own work and our work in coming together in community like this. And we'll continue with our next session in this series, we'll talk a little bit about the role of prophecy, how we actually need to look at prophecy and bring prophecy into the picture as we go beyond these four positions. And the line in one of my dream songs comes to me. It says, "Watch the world beginning to whirl in circles." That already. And that's what we're going to do with the last three sessions in this series, number 5, 6, and 7. We're going to invite people to join us in watching the world beginning to whirl in circles as we change the patterns together in small ways that we can every day. Every choice we make, and continuing to show up in communities and support the depth that we are demonstrating as we share with all of you the ways that we can create change in a truly new, open, creative way. So at this time, we ask you to watch the series on YouTube, and we ask SD to sing us out, and ask all of you to join us in the next 3 sessions in this series and find a new way to mend the sacred hoop.
And big thanks to Pamela.
Oh, lots of thanks to Pamela for making things work and keeping us going, and the tech support that we need to rely on so much. Thank you, Pamela, always. And the videos that she edits and puts up for us.
Way nay nay Yahweh nay o. Way nay nay Yahweh nay o. Way nay nay Yahweh nay o. Way nay nay yo. Way nay yo. Yana hey yana. Way yana hey yo. Way yana hey yana hey yo. Hey yo. Way nay nay Yahweh nay yo. Way nay nay Yahweh nay yo. Way nay nay Yahweh nay yo. Way nay nay hey yo. Way nay yo. Yana hey yana. Way yana hey yo. Way yana hey yana hey yo. Hey yo. Way nay nay Yahweh nay yo. Way nay nay Yahweh nay yo. Way nay nay Yahweh nay yo. Way nay nay hey yo. Way nay hey yo. Yana hey yana. Way yana hey yo. Way yana hey yana hey yo. Hey yo. Way nay nay Yahweh nay yo. Way nay nay Yahweh nay yo. Way nay nay Yahweh nay yo. Way nay nay yo. Way nay yo. Yana hey yana. Way yana hey yo. Way yana hey yana hey yo. Hey yo.
Thank you so much, SD, for that very old sacred song.
Mhm.
Wrapping us up this time and hoping to see you join us next time as we watch the world beginning to whirl in circles and create a new way of mending the sacred hoop together in community. Until again, Donna Dalka on you.